Did you guys just finish Arcane like I did? Were you destroyed? Were you heartbroken? Were you crying? Were you screaming? Were you throwing up at the fact that there is not going to be another season? You can't get enough of Arcane. You really want to see more, but there's no more to watch. But maybe you're a book person, so maybe you can see a little bit more of Arcane. So today I'm going to be talking about some book recommendations that you can read after finishing Arcane Season 2 and why I think that they match Arcane very, very well. But first, hi, hello, my name is Wendy Ivy Martinez, but you can call me Ivy. I am also known as the Geek Goddess here on YouTube and also on TikTok. And today we're going to be talking about some book recommendations for if you finished Arcane and you really want to get more of this world and additional things, what you can read right now. So let's go ahead and get started with some of these book recommendations, right, Nezuko? This is Nezuko. Say hi, Nezuko. She says hello. She needs a bath because she's stinky. Okay, so the first book that I'm going to recommend to you guys is Among Thieves by M.J. Kun. This book is perfect if you just finished Arcane and you want more like a Vi-ish sort of character. And this one we are basically following a group of criminals that get sent on a heist basically to steal something that is unstealable. And of course they are, even though they work together, they are criminals and obviously they want the benefits for themselves. So can they put everything aside and work together? We do not know. This book is so good. It has our main character, the Butcher of Blackwell, or Butcher of, what do I always want to call her? Blackwell. Butcher of Kerwick. Her name is Raya. She reminds me so much of Vi, and there is a sapphic romance that blooms very, very slowly, sort of like Caitlyn and Vi's relationship in season 1, where it's like, will they, won't they? The love interest in this one, I believe, is some sort of like officer or something like that too, where she's like undercover, something like that. I can't remember exactly what, because I read this so early on in the year, but there is a very similar romance that blooms very slowly. You don't really see it grow too much, just like Caitlyn and Vi in the first season. And I'm not sure if it progresses in the second book because I haven't read the second book, but this one gave me such Arcane vibes. If you want something that's very similar to the world, if you want something that follows like criminals doing a heist, sort of like they did in the very beginning of the book, you want a Vi-like character, you want a sapphic romance with a Caitlyn-like character, this would be perfect. Okay, so another book recommendation that I have for you guys is Throne of Glass. The reason why I chose Throne of Glass specifically, because this one is very similar to Vi's experience, where Vi is thrown into the dungeons, right? Or she's thrown into jail, and she basically makes it out with Caitlyn helping her get out of jail. But in order to get out of jail, she has to help Caitlyn. She has to help the enemy. And same sort of thing goes for this. She has to help the people that put her there in the first place. Same sort of thing goes for this. We follow Selena Sardathian, and she is basically sent to the salt mines of Endovir, and she ends up getting like out by the prince. Like the prince helps her out and he's like, hey, you have the chance to be freed, but you have to enter this competition, and then if you win, then you become a assassin for my dad. And her dad's like one of the people that put her there in the first place. So in order to gain her freedom, she has to help the people that put her into the salt mines in the first place, sort of like Vi and having to help the enemy that put her in jail in the first place. It very much gave me similar, like a similar sort of vibe to that. Not only that, she knows how to fight very well, and it sort of resembles Vi in that sense as well, because Vi is like, comes off as like this very confident, cute like character that's very strong. Same thing with Selena Sardathian. She's also the same way, very confident in her abilities. She does know how to kick someone's ass if she has to. Okay, so the next recommendation that I have for you is if you enjoyed Jinx as a character, or you liked the dynamic between the sisters and the sisters, you know, having to find one another, and you love the steampunk vibes, I really highly recommend Phantasma by Kaylee Smith, because their main character is very Jinx-like in the sense where she is slightly insane and she hears voices in her head, and she likes things that are a little bit more on the gory and just dangerous side, I should say, but also in the sense that she has like a sister that she's like looking for and things like that as well. And basically Phantasma, we are following our main character whose name is Ophelia. Her mom has just like passed away, and one night her sister goes missing and she finds her sister's diary, and it looks like she went to Phantasma, which is like this huge like manor. There's a whole competition, and if you win the competition, you basically make a deal with the devil and you get a wish of your choosing or something beyond what your wildest dreams to come true. And it looks like her sister went to Phantasma. The only thing is Phantasma is very, very dangerous. So Ophelia goes to find her sister, not necessarily because she wants to win Phantasma, but just because she does not want anything to happen to her sister. So she ends up going into Phantasma, and along the way we see her go through all these trials, unlock something within her that's very, very dark. And then there's also a very interesting morally gray love interest as well. I just read this a few days ago. I just finished it like a few days ago, and I was obsessed when I told you that I ate these 500 pages up in like 2 days or less. I did because it was that good. So it was so good. I highly recommend this one, especially if you want a character that's a little bit crazy, a little bit badass, and you like that sister dynamic. So if you liked Arcane and your favorite part about it was Caitlin and Vi's relationship, you just wonder how their relationship would be like if they were in another world where the stakes were a lot lower than the world that they live in, I highly recommend Can't Spell Treason Without Tea by Rebecca Thorne. This is a cozy fantasy in which we are following two girls. We are following a mage, and we are following, I believe she was like a officer for like or a bodyguard for the queen, and they decide to just run off together and open up a tea and bookshop in the middle of nowhere, basically in this little town of nowhere. And it is very cozy fantasy. It's very cozy feels. So and it reminds me, the way that they act kind of reminds me a little bit of Caitlin and Vi's dynamic as well, especially since one of them was a royal guard. And I really enjoy their the relationship between them. I really enjoyed I like sometimes having that occasional break from in between reading like very high stakes fantasy or high stakes anything, and just getting a nice little cozy time, a nice little palate cleanser between reading something very intense. And this does that for me. So I highly recommend that if you wanted to, if that sounds appealing to you. Okay, so the next book recommendation that I have for you is if you liked the sense of shimmer, right? Somebody running an underground city where there's shimmer. If you liked a broken government. If you liked intergenerational feuds, sort of like Silco and Vander, and then passing it on to Vi and Jinx. If you enjoyed that, then you would probably really enjoy Jade City by Fonda Lee, because this also follows sort of similar political intrigue. You have a underground city, right, that's sort of run by these like criminals. You have this broken government where people turn against each other, and you have these clans that are forming along the city, and you see them slowly breaking, sort of like what happens in Arcane as well, where there's you have like the underground city versus, you know, the upper city, and then you have these clans that sort of start to form in the underground city as they see that Vander's not running things exactly how they want it to run, and you see them slowly start to break up and cause havoc, and that havoc ensues even further as we get into the second season. So if you really enjoyed that, you would probably really like Jade City. Now, if you enjoyed the friends or siblings that were once on the same side but now find themselves on opposite sides of a war or a battle, very much like Victor and Jace, it really reminds me of, you could say also Vi and Jinx, but this gives me more like Victor and Jace sort of vibes in season 2, then I highly recommend Vicious by V.E. Schwab. In this one we are following Victor, and we are following Eli, and they are two academic college students who basically start to share their love for the academics and all that, and they experience different sorts of things together, like near-death experiences, and they also realize that something extraordinary, they have the power to make something extraordinary, which is to give people supernatural abilities, and they decide to do so. Once they go from thesis to experimental, things go very, very wrong. And then 10 years later, we are following them as Victor breaks out of prison, and he is determined to go find Eli. And Eli is trying to eradicate pretty much every super powered human being that they accidentally created. So you see these two that have become foes after 10 years, and it very much reminds me so much of the thing that happened with Victor, along with how what started it was their experiments that they started together with Hextech. So if you really like that concept, you would probably really enjoy this book because it gives me such similar vibes to that. Okay, so if you liked the concept of underground city dwellers, if you liked the concept of the arcane and people with powers, if you liked the concept of the so-called heroes of the underground city that actually failed, like in the first season, and so Silco ended up ruling the underground city after all. So if you liked all that concept of what happens if the hero did fail, if you liked the concept of the underground city dwellers, if you liked the concept of the arcane or people with powers, you would probably really enjoy the Mistborn series. This is the first book in the Mistborn series, The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. I actually have not read this one, but I do plan on reading it in December. However, I have been doing a lot of research, and it looks like this one very much resembles Arcane in those senses. So if you really liked those concepts, you would probably really enjoy this one. And this one we are basically following what would happen if the hero that was prophesized, that everybody was hoping for, actually lost, and the dark ruler actually won and took over the world or the city. This is what would happen. And now it's been 1,000 years that they have been under the Dark Lord's rule. And now it looks like something is rising. There is unexpected allies, very much like Arcane as well. So if you really liked those things, you would probably really enjoy this series. Okay, so the last two book recommendations that I'm going to make is going to be one for specifically each season. So if you really enjoyed season 1, I have a book recommendation for you. And if you really enjoyed season 2, I have a book recommendation for you. Starting with season 1, if you really liked season 1, you liked the upper city and how you liked every little steampunkish detail, including like the blimps that were flying around. You liked the arcane experiments. You really liked the dynamic between Jinx and Vi. You would probably like Retribution Falls by Chris Wooding. And this one we are following a Jinx and Vi-like character who were basically together, like they were together in like a clan, right? They ran a clan together, and and then something goes wrong when one of these heists happen, very much like what happened to Vi and Jinx after something went wrong after a heist that they tried to do, and they found themselves on opposing sides of a battle. That is exactly what happens in this one. So if you really liked the world, the atmosphere, the steampunk vibes, and the fact that you have these two people that used to be so close, they used to run together, like become enemies after a specific like heist event goes wrong, this would be perfect for you. This wraps up season 1 so beautifully. So if you really want that essence of season 1, this would probably be a really great choice. So getting into the spoilery. So if you guys haven't watched season 2, first of all, please watch season 2 because I feel like I already spoiled a few things, but this is going to be like a bigger spoil. So if you guys did not watch season 2, please go watch that before I give you the recommendation for season 2. But if you have watched season 2 and you liked season 2, you liked the concepts of season 2, you liked the ambiance of steampunk vibes, you like Caitlin and Vi's relationship and how it progressed, you liked the time loops, the alternative realities, you would probably really enjoy this book. I just got this in my Illumicrate box and I'm so excited. It is The Last Hour Between Worlds by Melissa Caruso. When I read the synopsis for this, immediately my brain went to, this is season 2 of Arcane. And this one we are following these two characters. We are following these two characters. We're following Kimbrel and Rika, and basically what is happening here is that Kimbrel, they're at this like big old party and they are arch nemesises. They don't really like each other too much like Caitlin and Vi after that horrible split when Caitlin becomes very obsessed with unaliving Jinx. So just like that, you have these two women that don't like each other, but they have to work together because there is this clock that starts ticking, and every single hour that it starts ticking, reality shifts and they end up into a different timeline together. And so they have to like get out. It very much gave me Caitlin and Vi, and also the vibes of the whole time loops and alternate realities. I literally grabbed this book the same day that I watched Arcane, and these two automatically clicked in my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, this is Arcane season 2. So if you really want all that, I would highly recommend it. This one, I really plan on reading it very soon as well because I'm very intrigued by the concept. My favorite, like one of my favorite tropes are when they mess with alternate realities and time loops. So this, I can see it becoming a really good 5-star read for me. Anyways, you guys, those are all the books that I recommend if you just finished Arcane and you want more books that remind you of it. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to be notified of when I post. I post videos like this, so if you like specific video games or shows, I have done other ones where I recommend books based off of like your favorite Baldur's Gate character and things like that as well, so I will put that down somewhere here as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!